Hi, this is McCoy Buck, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make your character go from this to this using an awesome feature that was introduced in Anime Studio Pro 11 called color points. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do, you can do this with any of your existing animations or any of your different characters you've created. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the strokes from this character. So I'm just going to alt-right click to select the layers really quick and remove all of the strokes. Now the reason why I'm removing the strokes is because I find it actually looks a lot better with your fills, and it actually works mostly with your fills, and I'll explain. So as far as the background and everything, let's go ahead and let's add some background so we can kind of base the shadows and what our character is actually going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a background layer, and I'm just going to create a square, and I'm going to give it that Moho Anime Studio orange. And then this is I'm going to show you a simple example of how to use the color points, because that's what is being used for this. So I'm just going to go ahead and just tighten that background up a little bit closer. Okay. And then all you're going to do is you're simply just going to select the point. So I'm hitting G on the keyboard and using my selection tool to select the point. And then I'm going to hit K on the keyboard, or this right here. So this is the color points. This is what's going to make everything look really good. So as you can see right now, it doesn't look that great. And once I select this color points tool, you're going to have this option up here for your color strength. You select your group. You can actually select groups you want to highlight, which is actually really useful. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. And then you have your option to select your color and your color strength. And that's it. That's all it is for the color point. So really quick, I'm going to select a point, and you can select multiple points by holding down Control, just as it shows there. You can hold down Control and drag and select different points. But I'm just going to select this point up here because I want to create my light source. And then once I have that point selected, I'm going to click on this color right here. And as you can see, it's automatically going to create a white color. And then from here, I can either drag out my eyedropper tool or use the color white. In this case, I'm going to use the color white. And one of the things that I want you to get in the habit of doing is it seems that with higher pixels and stuff like that, higher color strength, excuse me, that it makes it more pixelated. So what I do actually is I just go ahead and start that from 0. And then I use my mouse wheel and I scroll up. So I'm scrolling up and scrolling down with my mouse wheel to adjust the value. And that way I can get some more fine tuning of what I want this to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and dial back that a little bit, and it looks pretty good right there. Now let's go ahead and let's do the same thing, but for our character. Now for our character, as I right click on the layer, in this case in this character, it has its body. I have the different options there to all the different points, I should say, of where I want to highlight and add my shadows. But I also want to add some more lines, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to show you a quick example of how I'm going to do this with the rabbit character. So again, I'm going to select all the different points. So I'm using G on the keyboard, and I'm selecting the points. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group, and I'm just going to call this body highlight. And I'm creating this group of these points that I have just selected. And this is actually really handy. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now what I have is the option to select my body highlight down in the drop-down menu there. You can also add and add your selections and modify your selections as well. But in this case, for the body, it's only going to be for the body. You can create your selection, and then I can create a separate one for the front ear and for the back ear. So I'm going to call this one. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the different points that I want to select first. I'll say front ear HL for highlight. I'm going to create a group for that, point group. And then I'm going to select the back ear, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a back ear highlight. Go ahead and hit create. So now when I go ahead and I select these different layers, I have the option now to select my group for my body highlight. So for example, for this body, I also want to create some shadow. Or rather, it's going to be rim light. It's going to be using a little bit of the orange here to bounce back onto the character. So I'm actually going to select the group right here for the body, and I'm going to call this body, and then I'll say rim light. I'll hit create. So now I have two options. I have body highlight and I have body rim light. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and select the body first, and I'm going to select my body highlight, and I want to highlight this color right here on the body. So I'm going to go to the color points tool. I'm going to hit K on the keyboard to select it. Select my white, and you can see already it's going to go ahead and create color. However, what I want to do is I want to grab the base color and then I want to give it some highlight. Okay, so something probably in that range. We'll have to adjust a little bit. So again, like I said, go ahead and take your color strength, put it at 0, because right there you can see there's a powerful amount of color, and we want to just shrink that down a little bit and just kind of fine tune it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to fine tune that color. You can see even right there it's at 0.01 and it's still pretty bright. So what I can do, because of the brightness, I can't really adjust that much. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower the color. So you can see I can lower and I could raise up that color. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to leave it where it's at. And I'm going to do the same thing for the ear. I'm going to select the ear. You can see it already actually selected the group, which is really cool. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my white, and I want to grab that same color. I'm going to select this ear. You can see I also selected that group already. I'm just going to drag my eyedropper tool, grab that same color. So really quickly, I'm already kind of bringing in some highlights into this character, which looks pretty good. And there's also this point down here. So let's go ahead and let's try to bring some highlight on this side. I might need to add an extra point, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this point one more time, and let's see if I can get some more fine tuning for this highlight. So you can do them all together, or you can do them separately. You can see I'm bringing it up. I can bring it up to about 1, and that looks a little bit better compared to where it was before. So now we have some highlight down there. There's probably a little bit too much, so I'm just going to dial back that a little bit further down. So I'm just going to... It's kind of hard to see when you're playing with really fine adjustments, but it didn't look like it was showing up before, but it looks pretty good now. This middle section there looks pretty... Looks like it could be adjusted a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I see what's going on. So I made that value really high. Let's go ahead and let's bring that back to 0. And let's just adjust that by the... There we go. That's better. All right. So yeah, I was kind of doing against what I said. I set that to value of 1 so I could see it, and it kind of messed up everything else. So it's not really showing. So again, I'm just adjusting my mouse here. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what we can do in order to fix that, because sometimes you don't have quite the great amount of control that you need in order to make your shadows and highlights really well. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add some more points. And to do this, the first thing I'm going to do, just to kind of illustrate the point here, is I'm going to, with this body selected on the same layer, I'm going to drag out a line. Okay, so I can drag out the line and I can add points to it, or I can evenly distribute the points simply by dragging out the line, creating the line with my add points tool, selecting the line, and then where it says here, right here for split or simplify, if you're using an older version, it's going to be under draw, and I believe it is simplify curve. It's either one of those two. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this this line by adding points to it. And you can see added a point to it, and I can add a couple more points to it. So now they're evenly distributed on this line, giving me a little bit more finer control. I want to now create color points for this line. However, I can't do this because this has already been established as a shape, and now I need this line. I'll show you what I mean. If I go ahead and I create this line, you're going to see that I have no control over what I do with these colors. It doesn't affect it the same way that it does for this shape here, because this is an outline and this is a fill. So if I want to go in with my tool and I want to add some white, you can see it's going to do it to this line itself. But because this is not a fill, it's only affecting the stroke itself. So as you can see, I have like no control. I can't really do much with it other than just make a line. And also you can see that I have this texture on there that I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit this button right here. This is your delete shape. There's no keyboard shortcut for it. So you're just going to go ahead and select your delete shape tool. And I'm going to select the body, and I'm also going to select that line. So now you can see that I deleted the shape and everything for that body. So now what I want to do is I want to create a shape, but I want to include this stroke here as the created shape. So I'm going to hit U on the keyboard, and I'm going to select the shape, and I'm also going to select that shape. So now I'm creating a, oops, let's go ahead and make that a fill. So make sure you have your create shape tool selected as a fill, because we want to fill it. We don't want to use any strokes or strokes and fill. We just want to fill. So I'll go ahead and create my shape. And as you can see there, it changed the color. And I think I messed that up because I selected the actual stroke itself. So let's see. I'm gonna select the shape of the, there we go. So I'm going to select the base color for this shape. I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete that. And there we go. So now when I go ahead and I select both the line and the body there, I'm going to go ahead and create the shape. There we go. It kept all of my colors. But now I have this extra ability to fine tune these points that I've just created. And let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select this stroke here. Hit K on the keyboard, and I'm just going to call this real quick. I'm going to give it a name, so I'm going to go ahead and hit G again to select my select tool there. And I'm going to call this body shadow, because we're going to add our shadow now, or a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to go back and hit K on the keyboard. And so now with those points selected, I'm going to select the white, and obviously I don't want white. I want to grab the same color, but I want to bring it down into shadow a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do that right about there, and I'll adjust it a little bit as I go. So now I have the shadow. I want to bring it to the color strength to 0 because I want to fine tune this adjustment here. And now you can see this gives me the ability to actually contrast the white color. If I move these points, you can see that it's going to overlap those points. Again, this is the part where it gets a little tricky, is you can see there's a little weird pixelation going on. It doesn't look that smooth. So you really have to play with the values to get a look that you want that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring that back down. I'm actually going to clear it. I'm going to hit 0. And I want to move this whole line a little bit closer. I want to go ahead and just kind of contour it with the body shape. So now this kind of defeated the purpose of creating all of my lines where I wanted them. But I guess in case you wanted to know how to evenly space out your lines, you now know. Okay, so that looks pretty good for the most part. I won't know until I add some color. So let's go ahead and let's bring in that shadow. Okay, so you can see there's a shadow being added there. Now you won't really know what this shadow is doing until we add our rim light into the color there. And I don't know if I just had a brain fart, so I don't know if it's rem REM or rim RIM. I think it's rim light. But anyway, I'm going to add that light reflecting from this background onto his skin for these points here. So I'm going to select with my select points tool. I'm going to select the group, what do we call it? Rim light. And I'm going to go back to K on the keyboard, and I am going to create the orange color here. Now, as you can see, it's the exact same color. I don't want to do that exactly. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's leave it at that color, but let's go ahead and let's take out the strength. So now you can see I have a really faint blend going on there. Now this is also being affected by my shadow. So we can kind of use that to our advantage to really control this color here. So I'm going to go back to that group, and I'm going to bring it down really low actually. So I almost want it where you can barely see it. But as you can see, you can't really see it towards the bottom, and that's because this color is affecting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm just going to move it out of the way for the moment. Now you can see how much this is actually, how much strength this actually has. So I have this shadow here that's controlling a pretty big amount of how much color is shining through right there. But I want to go ahead and adjust that color real quick for the rim. So I'm going to go back into that value. I'm going to shrink that back down just to 1, because one's quite a bit. There's a lot going on there. Let's go ahead and let's select this selection here and adjust the point value. As you can see, I'm trying to adjust this point down here, and it's kind of covering, I don't know if you can see it, but it's covering a pretty big area with just that point, which is kind of interesting. So I can't really get too crazy there, or else it won't look too good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my shadow back over. So you can see how much with that power of that color. So I need to bring that color back down because it didn't matter what I did when I brought over that shadow. It overpowered it. So I'm going to bring it back down to 0, and I'm going to do like 0.5. Let's reduce that a little bit more. So let's do like 40. So it's kind of hard to explain. This is something that you got to do yourself. This is something you got to see how it works yourself in order to know what exactly is going on. Okay, so something like that. So you can see there's a little bit of overlapping. This color, again, it's shining through a little bit too much. I don't really like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and reduce that a little bit more. And what I was trying to do is get that color down there because it's not really shining through. So it might be, yeah, that's not even affecting it either. So yeah, it's still, I don't know, it's still not perfect. But you can still get a pretty cool effect there. So now I have a lot of highlight here, and I have a lot of shadow, and I have a lot of rim light. So I really need to try and adjust this the best I can to get a good looking result. Oops. I might need to adjust my shadow. That looks a little good. Now it's just the highlight. The highlight's pretty overpowering. It's a lot of white there. So again, I'm going to select the just quickly select the group for the highlight, and I'm going to go hit K on the keyboard, and I'm just going to adjust that a little bit more. Maybe bring down the colors a little bit slightly. Alright, that looks a little bit better. So I got a little bit of the rim light there, not a lot, but enough to kind of show what's going on. The more time I would be able to spend with this, the better it would look, obviously. But for time's sake for the tutorial, I just want to show you exactly how this color points work and how it could really change your illustrations and make them look a lot better. So I think this is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and hit 0, and I'm going to bring in that color. I'm just going to kind of look at my render view so I can see what it's looking like. So you can see it's pretty harsh there, so I'm just going to bring it back down to 0.1, 0.01. And that looks a little bit better. So you can see already the huge amount of difference that this has made using color points. Again, you can go through and fine tune it and really make it look good. But let's go ahead and let's add a shadow to this character. I haven't done a tutorial on this, but this is something that many people have wondered how I've done it, and it's pretty simple. All I do is I just go ahead and take this rabbit character, and I'm going to duplicate the layer. And as you know, a shadow is going to be following the animation, the body, almost exactly. So that's what we're going to be doing with our shadow. We need to have it following exactly with our body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in the Z-axis with this shadow. And this is going to be a little bit advanced for some and maybe confusing for others, but hopefully it makes sense. So right now I just hit my orbit tool and I'm going into the Z axis now. And I'm just gonna, you can see that this is the camera facing the direction. This is the back side of it if the camera was on the other side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this rabbit character, the second one, the duplicate, and I'm gonna go into the rotate XY, and I'm gonna rotate it down. Holding down Shift, I'm gonna bring down that the X axis there, and I'm trying to get a different angle so you can see what's going on. And I need to adjust that value, so I want to make that at a perfect 90-degree angle so it's square to the floor there. So I'm going to, let's go back. And as you can see, it's -90. It's pretty close, or 95. So I want to put that at -90. And there you can see it's now square. Now I'm going to go back to my orbit tool. And, I'm going to go back to the, let's see here, what was it? The shear layer. And I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to shear what I just created there. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. I need to go back into this so I can see exactly what's going on. And now I'm going to go back to my shear tool and holding down Shift. I was holding down Shift to constrain the X-axis. Now I'm going to hold down Shift to constrain the X-axis going this way as well. So this will give me the effect of like a casting shadow. I can also adjust the size of the layer if I want to move it closer. But let's go ahead and let's go back to our main view. And let's just see what that looks like. So you can see it kind of looks a little wonky. Let's go ahead and render it. Yeah, looks a little wonky. It's not really connecting too well at the bottom there. I'm going to go ahead and remove my background so I can see that a little bit better. Move my bones. And let's see. So I don't want to do anything with the layers yet. I want to adjust as much as I can with the shear tool. Oops. The best I can. Dang. It's a little finicky, even holding down Shift. That's why I go into the orbit tool so I can see what's going on. All right, so now I have my shadow more or less. Okay, so I won't mess around too much with that. It needs a little fine tuning. You could probably adjust I'm trying to adjust the scale. Okay, so it's not really liking what I'm doing right now. There we go. So I can adjust the scale a little bit too. Yeah, take a little bit of fine tuning. But I just want to show you now when I go into the actual animation, it's following. It's using the exact same animation. It's just at a different angle. And all I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna look. Let's go ahead and let's bring back our background. I'm just gonna look to see if everything connects right as far as the shadow to the actual character. And that looks pretty good. It's connecting pretty good there. So now with that looking pretty good, I'm gonna go into the rabbit, which is the shadow. I'm just gonna go ahead and name this shadow so you know which one's which. And I'm gonna go to custom colorize layer. I'm gonna click on that. And then I'm gonna go to black, like as black as I can get it, but I'm gonna adjust my opacity. I'm gonna put my opacity to about halfway. Hit apply, okay. Now you're gonna see that I have my shadow. So once you're all done, go ahead and render this out. And I mean, you can do as much color adjustment as you need. This one would need a little bit more to make it look a lot better. But compared to what it started at before, I think we made some pretty awesome progress on this animation. You can't really see it in the actual playback. You have to render it out to see it. All right, so that's it for this tutorial for color points. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you later.
Hey guys, if you're really serious about becoming an animator, join the Moho Studio Academy and become a member today. As a member, you're going to get access to all Moho and Anime Studio courses, one-on-one 15-minute tutoring with me, members-only community access via Discord, exclusive sneak peeks to courses that I'm creating, and a monthly live Q&A. We'll do animation sessions, and we'll do all sorts of fun stuff together. So click or tap on the logo, and I will see you in the Academy.